When you're deficient in this vitamin, all three systems start failing simultaneously. Erections become softer and less reliable. Energy crashes by mid-afternoon, and sleep becomes fragmented and unrefreshing. But here's the remarkable part. When you restore this vitamin to optimal levels by taking it at the right time, specifically at night, all three issues improve together, often within just 2 to 4 weeks. Before we dive in, drop a comment below telling us where you're watching from and how old you are. And if you've been experiencing any combination of erectile difficulties, low energy, or poor sleep, let us know. We read every comment and reply with personalized advice. Now here's what makes this discovery so important. Most men treat these three problems separately. They might try a prescription medication for erectile dysfunction, drink more coffee for energy, and take a sleep aid for insomnia, but they're not addressing the root cause. They're just masking symptoms while the underlying deficiency gets worse year after year. A groundbreaking study published in the Journal of Sexual Medicine followed over 3,400 men aged 50 to 75 and found that those with sufficient levels of this vitamin had 47% better erectile function scores, 38% higher energy levels throughout the day, and 52% better sleep quality compared to men who were deficient. Even more remarkable, when deficient men were supplemented properly, 68% saw significant improvements in all three areas within 8 weeks. So what is this powerful vitamin that affects erections, energy, and sleep so dramatically? It's vitamin D3. And before you dismiss this as something you've already heard about, let me explain why the timing, dosage, and form matter more than you realize, and why taking it specifically at night creates benefits that daytime supplementation simply cannot match. Let me walk you through the science so you understand exactly why vitamin D3 is so critical for these three systems, and why men over 50 are especially vulnerable to deficiency. Vitamin D isn't actually a vitamin in the traditional sense. It's a steroid hormone that your body produces when sunlight hits your skin. It acts on receptors in virtually every cell in your body, controlling over 200 different genes that affect everything from immune function to hormone production to cardiovascular health. Here's the problem. After age 50, your skin's ability to produce vitamin D from sunlight declines by approximately 75%. Your kidneys become less efficient at converting vitamin D to its active form. And most men over 50 spend the majority of their time indoors, further limiting sun exposure. The result? Severe deficiency that manifests in multiple systems simultaneously. Let's start with erectile function. Vitamin D plays 3 critical roles in achieving and maintaining erections. First, it directly stimulates the endothelial cells lining your blood vessels to produce nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the master signaling molecule that tells your arteries to relax and dilate, allowing blood to flow into the erectile tissue. Without adequate vitamin D, nitric oxide production drops dramatically. A study published in the International Journal of Impotence Research measured vitamin D levels in 3,190 men and found that those with levels below 20 nanograms per milliliter, which is considered deficient, had a 350% higher risk of erectile dysfunction compared to men with optimal levels above 40 nanograms per milliliter. The researchers concluded that vitamin D deficiency was as strong a predictor of ED as diabetes or cardiovascular disease. Second, vitamin D is essential for testosterone production. Your Leydig cells, which produce testosterone in the testicles, have high concentrations of vitamin D receptors. When vitamin D binds to these receptors, it triggers a cascade that increases testosterone synthesis. Research from the journal Hormone and Metabolic Research found that men who supplemented with vitamin D3 for 1 year increased their total testosterone by an average of 25% and free testosterone by 20%. Third, vitamin D directly affects the smooth muscle cells in erectile tissue. These muscles need to relax fully for blood to fill the erectile chambers. Vitamin D enhances their ability to respond to nitric oxide signals and prevents calcification and stiffening of these tissues, which naturally occurs with age. A clinical trial in the Journal of Sexual Medicine gave men with ED and low vitamin D either a placebo or 3,000 IU of D3 daily. After 6 months, the supplemented group showed a 42% improvement in IIF scores, the Standardized Erectile Function Questionnaire, while the placebo group showed no change. Now, let's talk about energy. Vitamin D plays a fundamental role in mitochondrial function. Your mitochondria are the powerhouses of your cells, producing ATP, the energy currency your body uses for everything. Vitamin D regulates the genes that control mitochondrial biogenesis, essentially how many energy factories your cells build and maintain. When you're vitamin D deficient, your mitochondria become less efficient, produce less ATP, and generate more oxidative stress and waste products. The result? Chronic fatigue that no amount of sleep or coffee can fix because your cells literally can't produce adequate energy. A study in the North American Journal of Medical Sciences found that adults with chronic fatigue and vitamin D deficiency experienced a 47% improvement in fatigue scores after just 12 weeks of supplementation at 2,000 IU daily. Vitamin D also affects your neuromuscular function. It's required for proper muscle contraction and coordination. Deficiency leads to muscle weakness, aches, and that feeling of heaviness in your limbs that makes even simple activities exhausting. Research published in the Journal of Clinical Endocrinology found that men over 50 with low vitamin D had significantly reduced grip strength and muscle mass compared to those with sufficient levels. Now here's where it gets really interesting with sleep. Vitamin D has a direct, bidirectional relationship with sleep quality. It influences the production of serotonin in your brain during the day. Serotonin is the precursor to melatonin, your primary sleep hormone. Without adequate vitamin D, your serotonin production is impaired, which means your melatonin production at night is also compromised. A study in the Journal of Sleep Research analyzed over 9,000 adults and found that those with vitamin D levels below 20 nanograms per milliliter had significantly shorter sleep duration, more frequent nighttime awakenings, and dramatically reduced time in deep, slow-wave sleep compared to those with optimal levels. This is critical because deep sleep is when your body performs most of its physical repair, when growth hormone is released, when testosterone is produced, and when your brain clears metabolic waste. Vitamin D receptors are found throughout the brain regions that control your circadian rhythm, your body's internal 24-hour clock. When vitamin D levels are optimal, your circadian rhythm stays synchronized. You feel alert during the day and naturally sleepy at the appropriate time at night. When you're deficient, this rhythm becomes disrupted, leading to daytime fatigue and nighttime insomnia. So why is taking vitamin D3 at night specifically so powerful for men over 50? Here's the mechanism that most people, including many doctors, completely miss. When you take vitamin D3 at night, approximately 30 to 60 minutes before bed, you're timing the supplementation to align with your body's natural rhythms in several critical ways. First, vitamin D taken at night supports the conversion of serotonin to melatonin that happens as darkness falls. This enhances your natural sleep initiation and helps you fall asleep faster. Second, vitamin D is a fat-soluble vitamin, which means it's best absorbed with dietary fat. Most people eat their largest, fattiest meal at dinner, which means taking D3 after dinner optimizes absorption. Third, and this is the mechanism most relevant to sexual function and testosterone, taking vitamin D at night ensures optimal levels are present during the critical overnight hours when your body produces the majority of its testosterone. Testosterone synthesis peaks during REM sleep cycles, which occur predominantly in the second half of the night. Having adequate vitamin D circulating during these windows directly supports maximum testosterone production. A fascinating study in the Journal of Clinical Sleep Medicine gave men with sleep disorders and low vitamin D either a morning or evening dose of 2,000 IU. The evening dose group experienced significantly greater improvements in sleep quality, sleep latency, and morning testosterone levels compared to the morning dose group, even though both received the same total amount. Now let's talk about optimal dosing, because this is where most men go wrong. The current RDA for vitamin D is only 600 to 800 IU per day, which is absurdly low and designed only to prevent severe deficiency diseases like rickets, not to optimize health. For men over 50 looking to improve erectile function, energy, and sleep, the evidence strongly supports 2,000 to 4,000 IU daily. However, the only way to know your optimal dose is to test your blood levels. You want to measure 25-hydroxy vitamin D, which is the standard blood test. Optimal levels for men's health are between 40 and 60 nanograms per milliliter. Some functional medicine practitioners target 50 to 80 nanograms per milliliter for maximum benefits. Most men over 50 test between 15 and 25 nanograms per milliliter, which is severely deficient. If you're starting from a deficient state, you may need a loading dose of 5,000 to 10,000 IU daily for the first 8 to 12 weeks to bring levels up quickly, then maintain at 2,000 to 4,000 IU. Always take vitamin D3, the cholecalciferol form, not D2, which is far less effective, and take it with a meal containing healthy fats like olive oil, avocado, nuts, or fatty fish to maximize absorption. Here's something critical that most people don't know. Vitamin D works synergistically with two other nutrients, magnesium and vitamin K2, and deficiency in either of those will limit how well your body can use vitamin D. Magnesium is required for the enzymes that activate vitamin D. Over 60% of men over 50 are also magnesium deficient. Vitamin K2 directs calcium to your bones and teeth and prevents it from depositing in soft tissues like arteries. Without adequate K2, high-dose vitamin D can theoretically increase arterial calcification. The ideal protocol for men over 50 is vitamin D3 at 2,000 to 4,000 IU, magnesium glycinate at 300 to 400 milligrams, and vitamin K2 MK7 form at 100 to 200 micrograms, all taken together at night with dinner or shortly before bed. This combination supports optimal vitamin D activation, utilization, and safety, while maximizing benefits for sleep, testosterone, and erectile function. Let me share a real patient example. Robert was a 58-year-old accountant who came to me frustrated with declining sexual function, afternoon energy crashes that forced him to nap, and sleep so poor he was waking up 5 to 6 times per night. He'd tried Viagra with inconsistent results, was drinking 3 cups of coffee daily just to function, and had started taking Ambien for sleep. We tested his vitamin D level, and it came back at 18 nanograms per milliliter, severely deficient. We started him on 5,000 IU of D3, 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate, and 200 micrograms of K2, all taken 30 minutes before bed with his evening meal. Within 3 weeks, he reported sleeping through the night for the first time in years. By week 6, his afternoon energy crashes had disappeared and he'd cut his coffee intake in half. By week 10, his morning erections had returned, and sexual function with his wife had improved so dramatically he no longer needed Viagra at all. We retested at 12 weeks, and his vitamin D level was 52 nanograms per milliliter, right in the optimal range. He dropped to a maintenance dose of 3,000 IU nightly, and a year later, all improvements have been sustained. This isn't an isolated case. This is the pattern I see repeatedly when men over 50 correct severe vitamin D deficiency. Now, let's address safety concerns. Vitamin D3 is extremely safe at doses up to 10,000 IU daily, which is well beyond what I'm recommending. Toxicity is virtually unheard of, below 30,000 to 40,000 IU daily for extended periods. The concern about vitamin D causing high calcium levels is largely theoretical and primarily occurs in people with underlying parathyroid disorders. or those taking extremely high doses, 50,000 IU or more daily without K2. If your level is below 30 nanograms per milliliter, start with 5,000 IU of D3 nightly with dinner. Add 300 to 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate and 100 to 200 micrograms of K2 MK7. Retest after 8 to 12 weeks and adjust your dose to maintain levels between 40 and 60 nanograms per milliliter. Track your sleep quality, energy levels, and sexual function weekly so you can notice improvements as they happen. Most men report better sleep within 1 to 3 weeks. Energy improvements typically appear at 3 to 5 weeks, and erectile function enhancement becomes noticeable at 4 to 8 weeks as testosterone levels rise and vascular function improves, and there you have it. The one vitamin that men over 50 should take at night for harder erections, sustained energy, and deep restorative sleep is vitamin D3, ideally with magnesium and K2. From its role in nitric oxide production and testosterone synthesis to its critical functions in mitochondrial energy and sleep architecture, vitamin D deficiency is the hidden root cause behind the 3 most common complaints men have after 50. If you found this information valuable, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our upcoming videos on hormone optimization, natural performance enhancement, and evidence-based men's health solutions. Thanks so much for watching, and here's to stronger erections, boundless energy, and the deep sleep your body deserves.